This doesn't involve
please
the
do
United
cite.
States of America. It is
So
between
the U.S.
IDF
intelligence is privy to
and
activities
between
of other foreign
Hamas.
intelligence
Those
agencies.
are the two parties. There are no American assistance here.
Wait, how do you think this happens? Do you think like we request
The IDF
have
information
targeting
about
information,
just like
intelligence happening around the world? We obviously don't have to be
in-house.
invited to know certain
Unless
things.
it was
Our
to become a
intelligence
joint
agencies
venture
gather
this
or
is
like
so
a
painful. Can you both
coalition
shut up?
with the United States, then you would have an argument. But here you don't. The NSA,
because
I
you
can
say
guarantee
so.
it,
Shut up,
the
Drew.
NSA, the CIA, and others have
Very
zero
funny.
intelligence on this target because it's not
Again,
in their
how do you know?
purview. Even Central Command isn't concerned with Hamas like the IDF is, right? So the IDF are the ones who are attacking. We must assess what they knew at the time of the attack. That's why himself, Blinken said, according to your own citation, is asking for that information by the IDF, and he's not asking his intelligence community to procure it because he knows they don't have it.
Well,
Isn't
no, he's
that
already privy to
curious?
details that the intelligence
Apply some
gathered.
critical thinking, please.
And I have, and it makes sense that
You
intelligence
haven't.
agencies
He's
gather
asking
information
for who?
on
The
activities
IDF
of other
for that
intelligence
information,
agencies.
not the IC.
Yes, additional
makes you
details.
think.
But you
Why
don't know
would
the
he ask
extent
the
of what's already
Israelis
known.
and not his own IC? Because the IC doesn't fucking have it.
Well, actually, if you read,
He
says
hasn't had it yet.
justification, so he would probably want to know how this comports to the international law that's clearly been violated. Because
You
there's
have
been no
evidence
evidence
of this because you don't
but there's
have
no
any
evidence of
access to the
Hamas targets in the building.
information.
So we're going to take
Further
Israel's
dual
word for
extended.
it?
You must judge what was known by the attacking party at the time of attack, not after.
But we don't
This
know
is
what was
God's
there.
truth
But we
that
don't
wasn't even
know.
an
Israel
accident
has
in the
not
first
provided.
place.
Israel
So
has not
your
provided
response
evidence of
is,
Hamas militants in
okay,
the
I'm
building.
gonna have
I'm
to
sorry.
mute you.
And
for
they
fuck's
destroyed the
sake. You're gonna
evidence
answer
as
the
well through a
question. If
fucking
not,
bombing.
Wait, but are we to
consequences
take
will follow.
Israel's word for it with
So
no
again,
evidence?
So you can
why is he
blatantly attack
asking the
journalists
Israelis
and
and
no
not
one
the
should ask
IC for
questions.
information? And when he says he hasn't received any
Wait,
information,
actually,
how could you
repeating
then
yourself.
say that he has
when
got
Mohammed
no
bin
evidence for when he
Salman, right,
hasn't received a
kills Jamal
response from the
Khashoggi,
IDF?
Mike, can you unmute the people that your opposition, please? This isn't Israel. Sorry, we don't silence our opposition.
To do
You
this,
have
by the way.
10
That's
seconds.
actually
I'm sorry. This isn't an illiberal democracy like Israel. You have to you're not allowed to silence your opposition. So can you unmute, please?
bomb
He
them.
has 10
by the
seconds
way,
to answer the question.
Funny is that
can we actually stop this? I
5
didn't know why they
seconds.
just allowed
until
this.
like 2
5
days.
seconds.
Yeah,
So-
why are we to take
3
Israel's word
seconds.
for it? Why are we taking Israel's word for it?
Okay.
Because
Someone else,
apparently,
is someone else
apparently
allowed
the
to
State
All right,
Department's
guys,
word-
relax.
talk?
answer
Like
the
this has been
question.
10 minutes.
All right, let Mike answer the question. All right.
He's
He
answered the
failed
question
to answer
several
the
times.
question.
Okay, we failed to answer a question. Anyways, cool. So like I was saying, so when Mohammed bin Salman, right, says that Saudi Arabia had nothing to do with killing the journalist Jamal Khashoggi, we should just take the Saudis' word for this, right? Because
No,
essentially
not
this
just take his word for it, but the independent investigation and that of the American investigation, which also concludes that, funny enough, that report by the ODNI doesn't have any fucking evidence and doesn't purport to have any evidence for the Khashoggi killing being, quote, deliberate. Isn't that curious, right?
Oh yeah,
If you
the
bother to
Saudis
read
never
the damn thing.
Saudis never killed Jamal Khashoggi. Like it was
Let's
actually
go
by
through the
accident.
Khashoggi one, shall we?
Yeah, it was
So
actually they never killed.
the
Oh no, I don't want to
ODNI
change the
report
subject.
says the
I'm
following.
not even done.
We
I'm
base
not
this
even done.
assessment
I'm
on the
literally
Crown
not
Prince's
done.
control
I
of
don't know why he's
decision
just
making in
allowed
the
to fucking.
kingdom.
Wait, Mike, let him finish. Mike, let him finish. Mike, let him finish. Mike, we understand you're a little flustered, buddy. Let's just let people finish.
Thank you. Anyway, so here's the thing, right? So typically what happens, right, is when MBS killed Jamal Khashoggi, right? What happens is America fucking accused him of it. There was a fucking investigation, and we came to the conclusion that he actually did kill Jamal Khashoggi. So here's the thing: when essentially Israel, right, strikes down journalists, and we call for an investigation, what they do is they fucking shy away, but they're our fucking allies, allegedly, right? And what they also do is they fucking bury the evidence. They don't fucking tell anybody. They send it to the Americans. Secretary of State can't even fucking confirm what they are saying. So ultimately, what we need to do here, Mike, is if you actually give a damn about your actual fellow quote unquote Americans, right? especially journalists, you should wait out, ask for the investigation. You shouldn't fucking just give Israel a free pass for attacking journalists. You should actually be a fucking patriot and
Well,
ask for
Mike
the
is
information to come
Australian,
to light.
actually.
And
But
Mike is not a.
Mike is Australian. He is not American.
But he's an American patriot as well.
Well, he wants
He's
to.
trying to move. He's
Yes,
trying to move to America to become
All
like.
right, so now we're gonna let Mike respond to AK.
So I just muted all the Spurgs flat out. The whole room is muted, so I can talk. So these fools have moved on away from their prior claim because they started to bother to actually read their own citation, which admits lack of evidence. Curious. So now we moved on to the Khashoggi point,
But there's no
which,
evidence that
again,
there
doesn't
were
contradict at all the Saudis' independent investigation, right? So here we have the summary. I'm going to read out the summary for the independent Saudi investigation. Upon the issuance of the order to bring back the victim by means of persuasion, and if persuasion fails, to do so by force, a rendition. The investigation concluded the incident resulted in murder. The investigation has identified those that ordered and carried out the murder, totaling 5 individuals that have confessed to the murder. The investigation concluded that the leader of the mission agreed with the negotiation group that their head that made the decision to murder the victim and carry out the crime to write a false report by the former president of GIP that stated that the victim had left the consulate building after failure of negotiating or forcing his return. So here the Saudis' investigation reaches those two pinnacle points, is that the Saudis, the order was to bring him back alive by persuasion or by force. So automatically that means bin Salman is innocent of the charge that he had ordered an assassination. However, that the group that was sent over, one of them ordered the actual killing and to make a false report that he escaped. Now, contrast this with the DNI report. The DNI report cites no classified evidence to counter this. It says, we base this assessment on the Crown Prince's control of decision-making in the kingdom, the direct involvement of key advisor members of King Mohammed bin Salman's protective detail in the operation, and Crown Prince's support for using violent measures to dissent violence abroad, including Khashoggi. Interesting because that can't be used to evidence itself. So that's the key paragraph in the ODNI assessment. It doesn't address at all the Saudis' independent investigation or its narrative.
It's been 2 minutes and 5 seconds
if
now.
If it had said something along the lines of, we assess that Khashoggi ordered the forced rendition or persuasion of Khashoggi back to the kingdom, but also secretly ordered his protective detail to assassinate, right? And then the marking of the paragraph is blacked out and is citing clandestine methods and so forth. And the paragraph cites that, but blacked out as well. And that would be interesting because it's using information that would not be available to the Saudi prosecution team. That would be interesting, but it doesn't even do that. It just bases on equivalent media reporting.
I don't know why you guys.
All right, Mike. So, Mike, you're gonna wrap it up in the next. Mike, wrap it up in the next. Wrap it up in the next 30 seconds, Mike.
It's been 3 minutes.
The Saudi
3 minutes
investigation
straight.
remains supreme in terms of evidence and narrative.
Mike, do you have me muted, Mike?
This incident.
Just why is he allowed?
I don't know why you guys just fucking allow this.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like Mike does the definition of gish galloping, and he never gets accused for it. Never. Like, and everybody else is always on this server fucking throwing that goddamn word around like it's like the fucking like Jesus Christ of words.
What are you talking about? I mean, you Boots, you actually are anti-Semitic, so let's not cap, buddy.
Wait. So here's the thing. I was literally in voice links. So wait. Hold up. I put in voice links, right? I tagged both of you guys. It's been 3 minutes fucking straight that he spoke. 3 minutes straight.
So I'm gonna finish. Thank you very much.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave. I'm leaving the room. Boots, it's up to you to mod this room. Bye bye.
That issue. No. This is why the muzzies should be stopped from moderating their own fucking
Boots,
chat and
can
their
you
own
please
debate because they
help,
get too
man? Like,
emotional.
please
What
help.
the fuck?
Yeah,
So
now that I'm
here's
allowed
the
to mod the
thing.
room, I'm gonna
You
just mute you for incivility.
Thank you. It's been 4 straight minutes. I literally timed it. I put evidence in voicings, by the way. So just to refute what fucking Mike said, because it was a fucking lie. Let me just read here, right? So just, and you guys can go to voicings. CIA concludes Saudi Crown Prince ordered Jamal Khashoggi's assassination. Period. So we don't need to have someone go for 4 minutes to like decide what happened, right? The CIA concluded quite blatantly that Jamal Khashoggi was assassinated by MBS. I don't know why he wants to defend a bunch of fucking American journalist killers, right? So here's the thing. Again, he's defending more American journalist killers in the form of Israel. They're literally attacking American journalists. They give no evidence that the Hamas was there. They've been in that building for 15 years.
Man.
They've been in that building for 15 years. Israel is a terrorist nation at this point.
No.
They're going to continue attacking journalists. They're going to continue attacking children and civilians.
Okay.
So this is very
Just to know, I
because
gave him
Hamas
1
is
minute and he
doing
left the room. So that's interesting.
Hamas is doing 2 human rights violations, and not just the fact that they're throwing rockets right to people unprovoked. They started literally shooting, right? Nothing like that happened before, and then suddenly they're throwing rockets 2000. But bigger war crime of Hamas actually isn't to the Israelis, it's to the Palestinians, because they are discriminately
Okay, I
hiding
sent you something. Do you
behind
call it a
civilians.
terrorist nation?
And there's also reports of Hamas raping Palestinians. There's reports of Hamas bullying Palestinians. Like, imagine you owned your home, right? And Hamas comes from your home to launch a rocket, and you know, right, that the Israelis are going to strike back. Do you think, as a rational human being, you would say, Hamas, come into my home and throw a rocket? No. Most people would say no, but people are terrified of them. They're terrified. So these fucking scumbags are coming into people's homes, throwing rockets from their buildings. Now, you've got to remember, these buildings, some of them, like, it's this man's entire family, that, like, everything they've earned in their entire life, they own this building, right? This is their income, their big family investment, disappeared overnight. Why? Because Hamas, against their will, at the threat of violence and at the point of a gun, is threatening them, okay? And this is the situation Palestinians and Israel has to deal with. And you come around and say, oh, well, Israel's the bad guy. But, like, you don't even register that Hamas is a problem, right? Like,
Wait,
it's not Israel killing babies, bro. If
Okay, I just want to point out.
I don't think I never said that Hamas was not a problem. But here's the thing: you actually have to like quantify which problem is bigger, and we actually have numbers to do so, right? So when we see who killed more people, we don't have to speculate. We know the numbers.
Because IDF kills terrorists. Are you fucking dumb?
Wait, hold up,
IDF kills terrorists.
hold up.
That's not true, man. That's not true.
Stop,
That's
man.
not true.
Stop.
Okay,
Israel, stop.
IDF doesn't strike
Stop.
children.
What do
I
you
won't
think
stop. It doesn't
America
say
would
false
do, right?
information. It doesn't
Just
say
getting
false
completely
information.
steamrolled.
You spread false information to these
Bro,
people, man.
we literally have an
dude,
Israeli trying to
steamroll.
steamroll me.
What do you
Bro,
think
literally stop.
America would do, right,
Free
if
G. Can I finish?
America bombed
Free
Pearl
G?
Harbor?
Yeah,
Free G,
dude,
you just spoke.
3G. Let AK respond.
Yeah, I literally have a fucking terrorist trying to steamroll me, right? So here's the thing. Israel, when we look at who killed more civilians, is it Hamas or is it Israel? It's Israel.
Hamas.
When we see who killed
No.
more children, is it Israel or is it Hamas? It's Israel. So at the end of the day, like,
That's not actually true, by the
it
way.
actually is. It's
not
actually
true. None of
factually
what
true,
you
and I
said
can
is
give you
true.
the
Hamas has
stats.
killed more.
I can give you the stats.
That's
Right?
untrue.
It actually is true. So
Oh
what we
no,
saw,
not you. I was talking about the other guy. The
yeah.
guy.
So again, do you know how many Israelis fucking died? Like 13. We saw 200 Palestinians get killed, 59 of which were children, man. That's fucking disgusting.
That's actually undercounting it,
Bro,
No,
you
you're
say,
fucking and like the way you're excusing a terrorist
you
group.
say
Hamas have
IDF.
the
Wait,
way
bro,
you're
your
conflating a
excuses
terrorist
is
group
terrorist.
with a population is
IDF
ridiculous.
is a terrorist group.
You say IDF kills more people, but they kill
IDF is a terrorist group.
killing civilians.
Hamas has been grooming little girls. They have been raping people. They have been terrorizing them at gunpoint, going into their homes, right, and throwing
Israel
fucking
just bombs
rockets.
them.
like, okay, so they've killed. You can look up, for example, the Black Friday. What happened when the Shias were attacking? There was one situation when Jordan or they. And also in Egypt, where they put Palestinians, the Islamics now, right? They put Palestinians and they basically starve them to the point of cannibalism. Like there's all these stories that you are refusing to acknowledge about the crimes of Islam, and you're sitting there.
Wait, how are these crimes of Islam? What?
As if America, like, right?
It's like saying this is a crime of
Let's
Judaism.
make very
Let's
clear
just
distinction here.
assume,
You meant
right?
the crimes
Wait,
of Hamas, not of Islam.
Yeah, that's
Right.
like saying IDF is the crimes of Judaism.
Just wait.
Like, makes no
Let's
sense.
assume, right? Let's assume that the Japanese bombed, I don't know, some American port like Pearl Harbor. Like, what do you think the consequences would be? I think
It's not remotely similar. Hamas is not a sovereign, like able to carry and project the same
It's not
power.
a wartime.
Alright,
It's not a wartime,
finally
and,
back.
and Japan was committing a
Stop.
full
Let's hit him
scale
with a
invasion.
And let's not forget, Hamas is like vastly outgunned, right, by the IDF.
so
It's not even like a
here's the thing.
competition, right?
So here's the thing.
Japan bombed a military base and not like a civilian, like
not like the Ministry of Health. Anyway, so here's the thing, right? Wait, Freegy.
It doesn't matter because Israel did nothing wrong.
Anyways, so here's the thing. If you go to voice things,
One at
right?
a time. Yo, Freegy, go ahead.
I'm not
You just
finished.
spoke,
I'm not
Freegy.
finished my sentence. I didn't finish because the military base, okay, that the Japanese bombed, right? That was not a civilian target. They did no damage to actual American people, right? They didn't kill American people. And America's
That's not true.
response for a fucking military base, one tiny little naval thing, right?
We're talking about World War II?
Two nukes on fucking Japan, and there's a lot of Americans in this chat that still defend that action. And fine, whatever.
Yeah, because
What do you mean it killed
international
American
law at the
sailors?
time allowed. Hold on, shit, this is fucking
That's the
retarded.
military
Again,
target.
this is why you kids need to learn international law just a little bit. So during World War II,
We're gonna
right,
start the time.
we're not talking about the Geneva Conventions, kid, right, as we know them today.
Oh my god.
Laws changed since then. So at the time, under the rules of bombardment, naval or air force at the time, children, entire cities could be targeted so long as two criteria met. One, they were defended by AA, and the second being that they contributed to a war effort, right? Entire fucking cities. That was at the time. So the bombings, be quiet.
How is
So
this
the
relevant?
bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, legal under international law. The fire bombings of Tokyo, Dresden, all that lawful targets at the time. Now, yes, of course, attacking Pearl Harbor was a strategic fucking target. But even if they bombed the next fucking city over, right, they contributed to
Boots, it's been
Pearl
an entire
Harbor.
minute.
That would have been a lawful
Are
target.
you justifying killing of civilians?
At the time.
I mean, the problem is I want to participate in this conversation, and Jew 144 has decided to moderate. So now I want to participate in the conversation, but also at the same time, I really want to point something out here and maybe go down this path. Are you going to justify the bombings of Nagasaki and Hiroshima as like we're talking about
lawful international
No,
law?
I don't justify that.
That's a separate conversation.
Sorry, I thought the topic is Israel Palestine.
Let's go back to the topic.
It was. But I'm bringing it up as a parallel to essentially say
for midway being
Spurg.
true, right?
Yeah, it's some way
so
to
when I
basically say Israel's
addressed
in compliance
that,
with
when
international
I
law.
addressed the Khashoggi argument, it was to highlight a point.
Talking
Because you have people
can't
here
hear you when you talk.
No, I don't
you
actually.
Speak.
Oh, surprising.
Yeah, so the prop I was going through before I got.
Like, what's going on?
You just got muted earlier and you left.
AK, do you want to go? Did you want to go?
Okay, so Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like, I'm not excusing
that.
My point was
I'm
Americans excuse that.
Okay, I think we just go back to Palestine.
I have a question.
No one cared, Silent.
Well, hold on, because the point I was going to make before I got
You Free G, wait, let AK speak.
What are you doing, man?
Free G, wait. You went on for 4 minutes straight.
Yeah.
I didn't. I went for 1 minute exactly.
You just spoke then.
It.
Let someone else
Fine, I'll
speak,
go
and
then.
you can go
Cool.
ahead as well.
Can I ask a question to
The point that was
AK?
referenced. Hold on. The point that was referenced.
Why is he still going on, man? Like, he's been speaking for 3 minutes straight.
That's what he does. He talks in the background.
AK, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question to AK, please?
No. Oh yeah, go ask me a quick question.
A quick question. regarding the death amounts from Israel or Hamas, what about the Iron Dome? If there was no Iron Dome and Israel had lots of casualties, would you consider things differently in this scenario or
Yeah,
not really?
so yeah, I would. So here's the thing. Typically, what you have in Palestine, right, is you have some people who recognize that most of their fucking rockets are going to be intercepted, right? So the reason they send the rockets is to have a financial cost, right? So it actually costs you guys a fuck ton to essentially have your fucking illegal settlements and to bomb fucking their kids, right? So it's actually a financial decision because each fucking rocket they send, it costs like nothing for them, but it costs 80 grand for you guys, right? So it's economic warfare. This is like how it works inside the 21st century, right? So putting that aside, right? When you look at the death tolls this week, right? There is no question that you guys have slaughtered more children, more women, more civilians, more innocents. No question,
These were
right?
terrorists.
No question. And they're
Terrorists.
No, that's a
children.
very
They were
terrible argument. But
children.
also,
They
I
were
just
literally children.
terrorists.
Let me finish.
These were terrorists.
Let me just quote, right? Let me just quote CNN, right? So they actually have the numbers, right? So 2 Israeli airstrikes in Gaza killed at least 43 Palestinians, including 8
These are
children,
not no.
and injured 50 others, many
This
of
is what you
whom
hear
were
from the
women.
Gaza,
Stop,
from
stop,
Gaza
stop,
news
stop.
sources.
Many of which are were women and children, right? And then essentially the death toll in Gaza has climbed to 197, including at least 58 children and 34 women. So I still don't understand why we're even trying to pretend like there's any like moral equivalent between what's going on with Hamas and IDF, because IDF is killing way more people than Hamas. IDF is a bigger terrorist group than Hamas, and IDF essentially is committing ethnic cleansing, which is disgusting. They're not even close to equivalent.
Isn't
Yeah,
Hamas?
you can continue to say they're using human shields all
doesn't
day, but Israel
follow.
is killing
Can
them.
I answer? Can I answer?
Incorrect. This has been thoroughly debunked, right?
Can I answer?
So
Can I
even
answer?
under
Thoroughly debunked.
international law, why are you
Yeah, we should let the guy
interrupting?
answer.
Curious. So under international law, which I've told this
Okay.
fucking dude several fucking times, under international law, per the German tribunals of World War II and ICTY, just because even if you have civilian casualties in high number doesn't indicate a violation. Now we know from independent investigations conducted by the Military Advocate General that has access to all such records needed to make that determination that they do civilian casualties. We have academic reports by 2 of the world's supreme experts of international law that embedded briefly with IDF targeting cells, and they interviewed them, got access to their records and so forth, and they concluded the exact same thing, that for Air Force, ground and naval operations, they do everything to avoid civ CAS.
Can you
Therefore,
share some
unlike
link?
Hamas, a terrorist organization, they avoid civilians. Funny that. Let's go over those, shall we?
No,
Mass
He can't
text
go over a
messaging,
minute, man. He cannot
phone
go.
calls,
You have to let
Why
leaflet
give the
Overton
fuck when this guy
speak,
distribution,
man.
speaks? He doesn't
roof
stop.
knocking, delayed fuses so when the munition
Death, you've
hits,
been going on
it
from
buries
now.
itself,
Can you?
If he goes on for a
detonates, and
minute,
there's less
I should be
shrapnel,
able to. If he goes
etc.
on for like 3 minutes, I
Funny
should be
Hey,
able
that.
to go on for 3 minutes as well.
Death to Palestine. Could you share some link about that? I'm interested in learning more. Do you have material to share
No,
about
he
that
doesn't.
information?
Yeah, what do you want?
Any link or,
Wait, who's asking?
Hooky.
Let's do this
Okay,
through
yeah, I was going
GMs,
to DM you
guys.
anyway.
Let's
Yeah,
do
actually,
this
yes.
through GMs. Anyway, free G. Do you want to go, please?
So here we have.
Holy fuck.
You can share
because
in the
people,
chat. In the chat, Israel v Palestine.
Yeah, because people like AK who defend the Chinese genocide of the Uyghurs, they'll cite NGOs when it comes to stuff like this. The NGOs even admit they don't have actual evidence to support their claims, right? So, for example, compare the pair. An NGO report on the use of chemical weapons in Syria versus, say, an airstrike. So, chemical weapons use is inherently a war crime, intrinsically so. You don't need to access anything about the commander's intent, precautionary measures taken during the employment of the mission.
Well, someone can interject. Like no one's even speaking, like responding to him. So
I thought he was given time. I thought we were giving him time. How's the moderation of this room working?
I think just mute him and let's just fucking carry on. The mods are burning. Fucking hell, I can't listen to this monologue lecture. Like, we don't know that chemical things are a war crime.
Like he's actually trolling this room, which is why I don't know why you fucking let him make it. There's no fucking regard for.
I wanted to answer you, AK.
Yeah, answer me. Come on, go ahead.
Okay, you said you gave the statistics brought by who?
Say that again.
You said the IDF strikes killed 300 innocent people, and I wanna tell you otherwise. The sources the CNN used for these are news sources that are identified with Hamas.
What? No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
CNN.
Which one?
No, like the news sources. Like, I mean, when IDF strikes and like the sources they
So
get
the
the
United
information
Nations, the United Nations is also with Hamas.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying that
they're using
the
both
IDF,
statistics
the IDF
from the UN
strikes.
and.
Let me finish. The IDF airstrikes are only to neutralize and kill terrorists. IDF won't kill innocent people, and all.
But they do.
What they did it. You can say the statistics need to bomb, but these
saying
statistics
there's
aren't
zero
true.
civilian casualties when they bombed an apartment building? Seriously?
Okay, because they bombed the
This
apartment
country
building
sells in
because
propaganda.
Are you saying there
they
was
bombed.
zero
Let me
casualties?
finish. They bombed
give
an
them an hour
apartment
to get
building
back here.
because they hide weapons there. If they wouldn't hide the weapons, they wouldn't bomb it.
Why
And
haven't
I'm
they shown
sure they
evidence?
roof knocked this building. They don't have to.
Of course they do.
Juicy
No,
Bird.
they don't.
Isn't
Yes,
Hamas
when you're striking civilian targets,
funded?
yes.
Isn't Hamas funded by Israeli money, or at the beginnings of
what?
Hamas? I thought the beginnings of Hamas was funded by Israeli money. So are they
It was.
connected?
Yeah, Hamas
It was to undercut Arafat.
Okay,
So
can I tell you what I find weird, right? Everyone likes to attack Israel for some reason.
Israeli money that
there was a
stabbed
little
us in the back.
war very recently. It was the Azerbaijanis after a peace settlement. They attacked Armenians. They were bombing them indiscriminately. There was no Iron Dome. There was nothing, right? They just felt like they wanted more land, similar to the Palestinians now, and they started fucking throwing rockets. And then eventually they won the war and they reclaimed territory and they took what they fucking wanted, and nobody fucking said a word. Really.
Lies.
So what people need to understand, irrelevant of Geneva Conventions, with Geneva Connections, war is war, right?
Bullshit.
The only way to stop a war is with direct force. So if somebody starts throwing
Lies.
missiles at you, it is your right to defend yourself. And if the only feasible way to defend yourself is to attack the terrorists, irrelevant of whether they may be, if they're committing war crimes, aka Hamas hiding behind civilians, that's a war crime. They're committing a war crime, right? And then you're blaming Israel for it. But Israel has no choice but to eliminate the target that is firing upon them. They cannot sustain
Yes, they do.
$80,000 per
What?
missile.
Okay,
right?
so what?
To
Okay, what's your
defend.
solution?
Wait.
All
So
right.
the solution
solution
is
is
How can you
go
kill
to war
someone?
until
How can you kill
here's the
someone that
solution.
hides behind
Wait,
innocent people?
so here's the
You're
solution.
starting in the
Here's the
middle.
solution.
You're starting in the
Hey,
middle,
stop,
guys.
man,
The
stop.
way that you
Shut the
Israel.
fuck up. Stop. Let me finish, right? So, here's the solution, little juicy fur. First things first, your country has to stop the illegal settlements in the West Bank, right? Why don't you
and
stop
stop evicting
steamrolling?
residents in
Yeah,
East
so
Jerusalem.
stop steamrolling Palestinians, right? Why don't you start doing that? Why don't you start following international law and agree with that there should be an investigation? Hamas in Palestine has agreed to a UN investigation. Seems like Israel has something to hide because you
That's
guys
not
don't want it.
answering my question.
Because you guys don't want a UN investigation. You guys can also, is actually commit to a ceasefire, but you guys haven't committed to that either. What you guys can also do,
That's not
essentially,
okay.
what you guys can
That's not
also
answering the
do,
question.
what you
That's not
guys can
answering the
also do,
question. You
what you
just
can
avoid my
also
question,
do.
man.
I'm
Just
answering
avoid
your
my
question
question.
directly.
No, you're
What you
not.
guys
You're
can
not.
also
You're not.
do is stop killing children, and
AK
when
is
you start
correct.
by
AK is
admitting to the
100% correct.
numbers.
That's not
AK is
answering the
correct.
question. That's not answering the question. My question is
Ask what,
how you
how
want
you
to
how
how
to
you can I repeat
how to
it? How
stop
can you
Hamas.
no
That's how you stop Hamas.
how can you stop a terrorist organization that that hides
Allow me to
behind their
explain,
civilians.
Josivor.
I just told
Allow
you.
me to explain.
Like, so
Okay, can I go? Can I go on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, the reason Hamas was created in the first place was to stop the illegal settlement which is taking place in Palestine.
Why is it illegal? Like
Why is it
Israel
illegal?
is
No,
the legal
Because
law.
Because it's against
already been
international law.
outlined per UN
It's against
Convention that
international law, so of
land
course
in
it's
the West
illegal.
even the
Bank is
US
Palestinian.
they give cover
That's
to Israel, and
incorrect.
they recognize the right to Israel, the Israeli right
Okay,
to
but can
defend
I ask you a
themselves.
question? Have you
Even
read
the
They're
US
not the
said
international law?
arbiters
yes,
of
they did it. I can
international
find you.
law.
I can find your source. I can find your source.
They're not the arbiters
Again,
of international law. These are illegal
exactly.
settlements.
So here's the thing. To answer
No, they're
They
legal
control
under
their own
international
country.
law.
Israel is their country.
free
Yes,
Gaza
they
is
are,
even
because
invaded.
there's no
Nope.
state of armed conflict, so the
G, to
Palestine is
convention
not
answer
doesn't
your
acknowledged by
apply.
question,
international law.
free G, to answer your question, the reason it is
What?
illegal is because there's something called the UN who called this against international law and has no fucking legal
Which it's not.
standing.
It
So
is.
it is against
No, it's
international.
not, because there's no armed
No,
conflict.
because that's not how international law works. You've got to understand, right, that each country has sovereign rights for the most part. Okay, and the country of that region is Israel. Palestine is not acknowledged by any international body on earth. Like, it's just
That
not.
is also not true. The Palestinian Authority.
The
Are you just
actions,
completely forgetting about
and
them?
then,
Or
wait,
do they not
with the
exist?
actions of Trump solidifying Jerusalem as the capital and all the things, and
That hasn't
the fact
changed
that Biden
international
has
law.
reversed it. I don't know what world you guys live in, but in the real world, USA dictates a lot of what is and isn't.
No,
Whether
this has
people
been
like it or not.
long-standing international law. This has already been well understood, right? So
Yeah,
the,
so
the land's currently being occupied by Israel since
That is
the Six Day,
incorrect, because there's
since
no
the
state of
Six-Day
armed
War
hostilities.
has been illegal. Nope, everything built in that
Incorrect.
territory has been illegal since
Incorrect.
1967.
They had a
Nope.
de facto.
Can you share
After
some?
the Six-Day War,
anyways,
they
so
had
here's
that
the
land
thing.
de facto.
So
They
here's the thing.
disengaged from it in 2005. There
And
is no
continue
state
to
of
occupy it.
occupation.
Yeah, and
There
continue
is
to
no
occupy.
occupation under
That is
international law.
untrue.
There is no state to
Anyways,
trigger occupational law, kid. You
Anyways,
have
so
to
here's the thing.
have
So here's
the
the thing.
territory controlled by a military. That doesn't
I
exist here.
DM'd it to you. I'm just gonna read it to you, man. Free G.
Let's
I literally
read it
DM'd
out,
it to you,
shall
right?
we? Let's
Are you
read
willing
that
to read
out.
out to the room what I just DM'd you?
International
This is from the
humanitarian
UN.
law, or the law of armed conflict, prohibits the
Who's
transfer
allowing
of
him to do
segments of a
this?
population.
I don't
Hello,
know.
why are you interrupting?
You're the
was he
mod.
Why are you
unmuted?
interrupting?
He has
That's
no
Why are you
literally just
interest
interrupting?
inside this
Why are
conversation,
you
only to
interrupting?
fucking derail
Can I
it.
say
Why are you
something? This
interrupting?
argument is going nowhere because everyone's jumping
Why are
above
you
each other.
interrupting?
Because
Why are you
I'm trying
interrupting?
to
I'll just cite
Why are you
Article
interrupting?
49 of the Fourth
Why are you
Geneva Convention
interrupting?
again.
Thank you very much. As I was saying,
So
as I was
Can you
saying,
deal with this?
Stop.
as I
So
was
anyways,
saying,
Free G,
I
are
was
you
reading
Why are
out.
the
Thank you
fucking
very
mods so
much.
incompetent?
I was speaking.
I'm here,
Thank you
bro. I
very
can't read a
much.
wiki article.
Hello.
Free G, are you willing to read
Hello. I
out what I
was
just
speaking.
DM'd you
Thank you
in front
very
of the room?
much. So,
It's a
international
wiki article, bro.
humanitarian
You
law,
read
or
it.
the laws
It's
of
not my
armed
speech.
No, but
conflict,
no, just
prohibit the
it's
transfer of a
it's a
population or
direct move from the
territory
resolution.
of another
Yeah,
state.
stop going on a monologue,
by
bro.
those
Allow other people to speak.
We're modding
This
here.
principle.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyways, Free G, I just DM'd to you the text of the UN resolution in 2016. Can you please read it out for the rest of the room?
I mean, this isn't a
Can you please?
if you
Are you
provide
gonna
me the
read it
same
out for the
documents,
rest of
I'll
the room?
actually
Yes
do
or
it.
no?
But this is a wiki, and anyone can change this. It's not for
This
me.
links
If you wanna read
directly
it
to
out,
the
go ahead.
actual
I'm
website.
giving you the
Wait,
floor, AK.
Free G. Is it that
AK, I'm giving
bad
you the
that you
floor.
just read it out?
If you
Just
want to
Oh
read
read it
my
out.
something, I'm
god.
giving you the floor.
Just
Read
read
it.
it out, and then if you think
Getting
it's
himself
false,
up
we'll
in
fact
pretzel
check it. Go
twist.
ahead, read it
Just-
out.
It's not that
You
complicated.
read it out, bro. I'm giving you the floor.
Oh my god.
Are
This
you
is a-
actually that scared of reading out?
Yeah,
Free
what's
G,
your
the
problem?
monologue.
It's not my
Why can't you
Free
read
G,
it out?
you asked for the international law. I said I gave it to you. Read it out.
Okay,
This
so
is
it's out of
because the
Known
reason,
for not supporting
the
fine,
main
Israel.
reason,
I'll
the
read it out.
Let
main
him read it
reason.
out, guys. Let
You
him
want
read
me
it
to
out.
read it out?
The UN is known.
Let him
Okay,
read it
so
out.
here it says enmwikipedia.org private. Non-permanent members: Angola, Egypt, Japan, Malaysia, New Zealand, Senegal, Spain, Ukraine, Venezuela. Then it says the resolution states, I don't know which resolution, it just says the resolution states that Israel's settlement activity constitutes a flagrant violation of international law. So the resolution states, which resolution we don't know, and has no legal validity.
Resolution
It
2334.
demands that Israel stop such activity and fulfill the obligation as an occupying power under the Fourth Geneva Convention. So the resolution of what? Like, can you provide me a proper?
It literally says what
AK, look what I marked. AK, look what I marked them.
2334.
Yeah, I DM'd it to you, by the way. I literally DM'd you the resolution as well. So the direct link
No.
from the UN, unless the UN's also fake news.
Oh,
Yeah, I shared the link of the
now
UN.
that's fake news. Oh, no, so now it's fake news.
But the
I
United
share the
States
link of
abstained.
the
That doesn't
UN
change the
library.
fact that it's illegal.
Do you see that?
Wait. So here's the
So
thing.
what the
So
US
so
abstained?
free G,
You
free
see that
G.
the United States
Okay, do you
is not
understand
a
the
part of
scope
this
of
vote.
Free G.
They
Now that I gave you the
abstained,
direct
actually, so they are a part of the.
now that I
it's just
give you the direct link from the UN saying it's a flagrant violation of international law, are you now questioning the UN Security Council of whether they know
Okay, so
international
here's
law?
the problem, right?
Oh.
Everything that you write here is in 2016. Trump changed a lot of things with his precedent of acknowledging Israel as purely Jewish. Trump changed the game, and a lot of people have followed and put their embassies in Jerusalem now.
Name three
So,
Wait,
like,
name people who've done that, please.
there's been other countries. I'll
Like
put
what?
countries. I know they have, but I just don't know
Like
which
what?
ones.
No, okay, so name them.
Body strongly that there have been, huh?
You would. The thing is, like, you would know because you've heard about these countries, like, specifically doing so, right?
Just name one. We're not even asking for an exhaustive list. Like, come on, no other country did this but the U.S. Like, European allies didn't do it. Still in Tel Aviv.
Canada hasn't done it.
Has England? Has Germany?
No, because they're not idiots and they acknowledge international law.
And so here's the thing. So when you're just trying to say, I don't know if you're like a Trump fan. I don't think you're a Trump guy, which is funny. Again, Trump is not the dictator of what international law and what it is not, right? He doesn't know dick, right? So, like I said, when the UN Security Council says that it's fucking a flagrant violation of international law, I would kind of bet that the UN Security Council is kind of right.
Well, and if you actually just read the language of the
Especially
Fourth
when the
Geneva
entire
Convention,
vote, especially when the
matches
vote was
pretty well.
unanimous.
And you could just read the language of the Fourth Geneva Convention,
Yeah.
Section 49. It's very clear that this is what Israel is doing.
Yeah. So when the UN Security Council has a unanimous vote on whether what they're doing is illegal or not, and it's unanimous and they say it is, I mean, I would probably bank on that instead of like Donald J. Trump, the reality TV star.
Who literally was like, "Oh, we'll move it to Jerusalem," because he has like personal ties to Israel through Kushner.
Yeah, and his son-in-law literally owns buildings in Israel.
Yeah, owning enterprises.
I mean, let's be honest though. Biden is a worse option.
No, he's not.
Absolutely.
Come on now. Biden, Kitty Fiddler
Absolutely
Biden
not.
is not a worse option.
That's not the
Biden
room.
actually
This is not
pulls
the
out
room
troops
for
out of
that.
Israel.
This isn't the room for that.
Palestine room. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's not the room for that, but also like, no, not even close. Like,
Guatemala.
I've literally seen videos of it though.
Bro, under Donald Trump, like the country was literally ran by Jared Kushner, who had like financial ties to Israel and literally like
There's no evidence of that. You're making things up.
It was.
No,
it
we're
was.
not actually. Yeah, it's pretty well
Jared
established.
Kushner was an advisor. He had no political power whatsoever. He was an advisor.
You know that's also technically another violation of international law. So like Resolution 242.
Biden and his son have ties to Ukraine and have
UN
own companies
resolution.
in Ukraine.
Ukraine's a big ass fucking country.
Chad King, what were you saying?
I was saying that UN Resolution 242 specifically convened on the issue of territories occupied and annexed during a conflict. And they were pretty unequivocal that any territory that was occupied during a conflict is inadmissible under the law. And so the territory on which East Jerusalem, like the idea of moving the capital to Jerusalem on occupied territory, goes against international law as well.
Do you know what's funny? Even Kosovo is moving its embassy to Jerusalem. Kosovo is like the first Islamic nation to move it there. It's kind of funny. Like you said, there's no fucking hell.
It is a violation of international law, clearly.
Kosovo, right, isn't as a biased extremist.
You still haven't
Islamist
told us which
supporter,
other
like,
countries have moved their embassies to Jerusalem, by the way. Like, what major country has done that?
Kosovo isn't a UN member state, so I don't know what you're doing, bro.
I think like Papua New Guinea, like because Papua New Guinea is like a huge country. I'm pretty sure they did something like that.
I feel like, but no, like,
but we recognize Papua New Guinea as like a superpower, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like some like microstate in like America did it too, like in Texas. Like
Actually, my friend, I'm actually the leader of Papua New Guinea, and I take that as a serious offense.
I mean, Israel has the least land to the United States every year for the last 30 years on which to build an embassy. They've leased it for $1 a year, and the US still hasn't considered or built an embassy. The only time they considered officially moving the embassies under Trump, and as of yet, it's still hasn't been constructed, hasn't been done, hasn't been moved.
So
But they've offered them multiple times to build an embassy there.
Oh, for sure. There's been a long-standing offer, but it's just never been done because it would literally be, as it was,
Every president
promised it, but no one was dumb enough to actually do it.
No, none of them promised it. Every president refused the offer. Trump was the first president in a long line of presidents who accepted the offer.
Yeah, they either had ambiguity towards it or they literally just outright
there's a
refused to
few
do it.
extremist Islamic nations attacking Israel, like Lebanon, Jordan, like the usual fucking
Lebanon?
suspects.
Lebanon?
But then after the UAE not only angrily rejected all criticism by the Palestinians of its normalization agreement with Israel, but went on the offensive by hastening to engage in bilateral talks with Israel. Like, there's so many moderate
3G is Islamophobic, if you
that
guys
are
are
playing
wondering.
ball with the West. And
He's very, very Islamophobic.
I mean, I gathered that when he literally said the evils of Islam,
right?
which again, by the
To
way,
be fair,
Hamas is
to be
like
fair to
one
3G,
organization.
there has been multiple countries. I'll list them out to you actually right now.
Chatkin does this thing where he routinely calls me Islamophobic, but
Well,
half
you
the
are.
Muslim
We know you
nations,
are.
a lot of the Muslim nations are backing Israel. Like
Wait,
the
but this was
UAE
no
has
secret.
backed Israel explicitly. So what we have here is a complete fundamentalist Islamic. Like Chatkin always backs the Islamic side, no matter what the
fundamentalist
argument
Islamic.
is, he will back
When did
Islam.
that become
So
the case?
that's what you call.
What are you talking about?
That's called
Freechy, this is just nonsensical. We already knew you were Islamophobic when you talked. You literally spoke earlier by saying the evils of Islam and not actually specifying a distinction
how about
between
the evils
Hamas.
of Judaism?
Yeah,
which he hasn't changed his position on. I don't think he's ever.
You really think it's all the result of the evils of Islam? In reality, it's just disproportionate responses from the IDF, right? And it's actually only emboldening certain elements of the Palestinian population to further resist Israel, right? So, like, it's not actually putting out.
I have a question for you, Aaron. Can I ask Aaron a question, please? Aaron, what is your opinion on LGBT rights?
How is this relevant to Israel visa?
Not relevant.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
But I'm not changing the subject. I want 3G to answer the question. We can go back to AK.
I have a question that's relevant.
So here's the thing, right? So 3G.
I have a relevant
No, it is relevant because I'm about to ask a different question afterwards.
It's not. Stop.
Oh my god! Yeah, you're gonna basically say because I support it, I can't support Palestine. Yeah, that's fucking stupid.
I never
right?
said I
international law violation.
I support Palestine. You fucking idiot.
We're not derailing.
This is just throwing shit. This is just throwing shit.
Yeah, I can still acknowledge international law.
Why don't we answer? Let's answer his question.
I have a question.
I'll answer your question, Chess. I'm in favor of LGBT rights.
Okay, well, basically, okay. So stop for a second, Aaron. You just said you support Palestine, you support LGBT rights. It destroy gays off buildings in Palestine.
Oh my
god!
So you did exactly what I said you were going to do.
Shios, can I ask you a question?
Oh my god!
Please, Aaron, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that the Palestinians have a right to self-determination or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not under Israeli law. So here's
that's
the
not
thing.
what I'm asking. But please, Aaron, please. Shios, do they have a right to self-determination?
Yes.
That means, can they make their own laws, or do we have to enforce laws on them?
I believe they can make their own laws. But I was just asking, I just wanted to ask him a question. I was asking him a question.
We would hope, and generally speaking, the Palestinians are fairly liberal, more liberal than all the other Muslim states, all the Arab states, with the exception of maybe Lebanon. And Lebanon decriminalized homosexuality. You would imagine that Palestine, being more liberal than Lebanon, would also decriminalize homosexuality too.
Yeah, if they're given autonomy and self-determination.
I mean, there's a way. Trust me, because I actually am now thinking about that, and there is a way to go about, like getting these people on the side and like sympathetic towards gay people and gay culture and stuff like that, and it's not like brutal, genocide of children, right?
But I think he's missing the point.
Hamas is so progressive; they'll commit over 3,000 war crimes in a single week.
That's like half of what the IDF does. Anyway, so
each one of those rockets.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Anyway, so here is
Israel committed like tens of thousands of war crimes as well.
Yeah. So
I have a question.
Here's
Targeting
I have a question.
Hamas is not a war crime. That's a
anyways,
lawful target.
stop with your fucking questions. Anyway, so
I mean, you
free
might want to
G,
learn
free G.
international
It's
law,
hard to
okay?
understand what's
The
going on because
children,
everyone
the
is just
children
chatting
that
over
they
each other.
blew
Like,
up.
Earlier.
The
Yes,
children that they blew
Hamas.
up.
Yeah, the
Were
Israelis have never targeted a
Why are we
single
allowed
child.
this, man?
Hamas.
Yeah, they
children.
targeted apartment blocks with children in them. You're right.
Nope.
So here's the thing.
Also
Anyways,
incorrect. They target Hamas under international that is
AK saying anyway.
This is
taking
called
all
a derail.
precautional,
This is what we call a
taking
derail.
all
And
You know what? You
precautional,
know what's the best part about
taking
this argument?
hello.
And,
I was
and like
speaking.
and like
Thank you.
Hang
mute
on.
the right
Hello.
person.
But you said that they target.
Moderation. Hello. Hello.
Oh my
Thanks.
god. When
But I was
Mike was
speaking.
Hang
muted,
on,
it
Black
was so
Jackal.
much more
Black Jackal,
peaceful.
Aaron, one second.
I think I'm pretty sure I was talking, wasn't I? I know
No,
I'm
you
upsetting the
weren't.
Muslims.
So,
No, Mike, are you
my
saying the same
God.
point again? No,
Can I
please.
finish? Can I
No, let him
finish?
finish.
No,
Go ahead,
you
let him finish. Let him
interrupted
finish.
me.
Let him
Isn't it
Way too
funny how
late.
the
just let him
fucking
finish.
Muslims get
Let him
triggered
finish.
and do
He's
mod
gonna
abuse?
finish in
There's-
4 minutes after he
So
interrupted
as I
me.
was saying before being
Please
rudely
be concise.
interrupted.
Wait, Shad King, right?
I was
I'll let him
before,
go,
but
but can you put
AK
a
started
time
reading
limit?
off
What's the time
paragraphs.
limit?
So
What's the time limit here? Come
the
on, man.
IDF
Just let him
target
out.
1
Hamas.
minute.
That's a lawful
1 minute,
target under
nice. I'll
international
put the
law.
timer on.
And per also international law, you must take a reasonable means to avoid civilian casualties, right? And the IDF have been well documented as doing so, right? Leaflet drops, mass phone calls and text messaging, including to the specific building, delayed fuses, all part of the targeteering process to avoid civilian casualties. Now, if civilian casualties do die, yes, but they're doing to avoid them. That is in compliance with international law. Now, before I got really interrupted, you kept saying that there's an occupation with regards
No.
to
Please wrap it
Palestine,
up.
but this
Please
is
wrap it up.
incorrect
That's it.
under
Wrap it up.
international law.
Okay,
This is a slight
make one
deviation.
point at a
Well, there
time.
must
Make
be
one
an
point at a
armed
time.
conflict to trigger the Geneva
Yeah, let's stick to
No,
Convention.
please make one point at a
time.
time.
Good
Please make one
point,
point.
Mike Hayden.
Well,
Good
I
job.
was muted for 10 minutes when I was trying to make this point the first
Anyways,
time.
made your
around.
point.
Can I respond to this point very quickly? I'll be very.
Yes.
So the problem with this, right, is that Israel routinely says that they target militants and they don't target civilians. And then if we look at the historical record of like the Hamas, Gaza, and say Hezbollah and the Lebanese, they supposedly target. Their targets are supposedly indiscriminate. They target indiscriminately, and yet the ratio that they target, that they kill
No, it was like a justice
military personnel. Please, that they target military personnel versus civilians. They have a better ratio of military personnel to civilians than than Israel. The only way that Israel can have a better that kill more civilians than militants than say these groups is if they're purposefully targeting civilians. There's no other way around.
Yeah, I've addressed this Brennan
Nope,
argument
man. Come
before,
on,
just
he
before you
just
joined,
fucking
actually.
spoke, man.
So I think it was AK that made that
spoke.
exact
You
argument, but
literally
it's
just gonna
because
allow
the
him to keep on
IDF
going after he
have
just
the
spoke.
Iron Dome
Chad King,
that
you
there
literally
are
said
very
go
few
next.
civilian
I was gonna
casualties as a
give my
result
point,
of
right?
those
Let
war
AK
And
go.
then
Being fair to
suddenly, out of fucking
AK.
I'm
nowhere,
going to respond. I'm
yeah,
going to
not out
respond
of
to
Being fair
Chad
suddenly
King.
after
AK.
nowhere. Thank you.
Let AK go. Please let AK go.
So
Trump
here's
2024.
So here's the thing, right? Because specifically we had this towards fucking Preachy and the other and little fucking Juicy Vert, right? So we debunked predominantly everything you guys had to say. So I actually want to hear a response to like essentially your position change after you heard everything that you knew was a lie, right? So you said it wasn't a violation of international law. That was debunked, right? You said Hamas was the main agitator here. That was debunked. Essentially, Israelis have killed more civilians, more children, more women than Hamas has, right? You said
You're
essentially
just
they were the main.
repeating the same
Yeah.
argument Chad made.
So we gave you the numbers that essentially even they
You're
have
just
even
repeating what Chad
injured more.
said.
They've even injured more people than Israel.
Well, there's a reason for that. Here, listen.
Yeah, exactly. He just made the same argument.
Man,
AK
shut
just
the
made.
fuck up. Shut the fuck
AK,
up.
you're not the brightest bulb in the fucking room, are you?
Yeah, so shut the fuck up.
You're
Anyways,
just
the last
repeating what
Keep in
AK
mind,
yo,
Israel
just
has
said.
been around longer than
shut
Hamas.
the fuck up. Anyway, shut the fuck
You're
up.
not a bright bulb,
You're
are you,
just
mate?
repeating what
Yeah,
fucking Chad just
yeah,
said.
so why are you still fucking talking? Right?
Because you repeated what Chad just
Anyways,
said.
fucking muted. Anyways, like I was fucking saying, right?
Jesus Christ.
So in the last component of what we also stated, right, is that essentially Israel, right, essentially is bombing a lot of these fucking buildings and giving no evidence that there's Hamas in there. So like 3G, after getting every single point that you said was debunked, Why is your position still the same, even with presented with new evidence that was completely contrary to what you said?
You didn't
You
debunk
done?
any of it.
You
Hamas
done?
routinely
Okay, so
rapes
hold
people,
on. He's done. Hold on,
puts them
Fridgie.
under pressure,
So,
routinely
yeah, hold on.
throws rockets
Hold
from their
3G.
home, routinely does
Fridgie,
all
hold
the
on a
things
second.
I mentioned. So when you go through a
Oh
long
my
list and
god.
say each argument's debunked as if it was like, I don't know what to say to that, you're just repeating yourself.
Yeah, so that's why I
So when I
already
provide you
responded to this
statistics, that's
brainlet
not debunking
argument
your fucking
before,
lies.
right?
The main reason that more people on the
AK
Israeli side.
refuses. Hold on, bro, hold on. AK refuses to acknowledge the
Wait. So
argument. So does
Free when
fucking
I provide
Chad.
you statistics
Just because there
debunking
is
your
an
lies, that has
increase
nothing
in
to do with
civilian
anything.
casualties by one side doesn't indicate a local violation. This is established in World War II tribunals as well as
Yeah.
ICTY. And so it's the following. Be quiet. It's the following argument. So
Shut
the
the fuck
reason
up.
why
You're a
Palestinians, Hamas, have few civilian casualties of Israelis is because of the Iron Dome and only because of that. Now, the IDF, when they do operations to airstrikes to target Hamas, they take all precautionary means to only target Hamas. But because Hamas don't have their equivalent of a fucking Iron Dome, yes, there will be civilian casualties, and over time that does add up. But that doesn't mean they don't do their best to avoid them. Now, I've cited several
Why the fuck
academic
is he just repeating
papers.
the
I'm going to have to
same
mute
dick all
AK.
the fucking
Thank you.
time?
So I'm going to cite several academic papers as well as several independent investigations that confirm this is not only in theory but also in fucking practice. Oh no.
Anyway,
So respond,
like I was saying,
AK.
Free G, I
The dude who
literally
defends the
DM'd you the
genocide in
fucking
China.
human cost of the war. What side has had more casualties? Free G, can you read it out for the room again?
No, I'm
But
not.
you do realize the reason for that, don't you?
This is from the UN. Hold up. So this is
All
the UN.
the
By the way,
Hamas,
He's not responding to the argument.
So by the way,
all the Hamas
So
violence,
So
right?
The reason the
so
Israelis have
these
killed
are
more people is
UN
because of the Iron
statistics.
Dome.
These
Most
are
rockets
UN.
fired by Hamas have been put
So
down.
these
Okay,
are
but
That's what I said,
UN
yeah.
statistics
AK,
that
why
Free
do you
G's
say
about
my
to say are
name to take the
anti-Semitic.
floor? Do you want me to speak or not?
Go
Like,
ahead. Which
I
side
don't
has
need to
died
speak.
more?
I wasn't trying to speak, but then you like challenge me, and then suddenly you don't let me speak.
Go ahead. Which side?
Here's the problem, right? The reports, the bullying, the pressure to allow Hamas to bomb people from people's homes, right? This shit's not officially reported. It's a bunch of militants coming in with guns. They're like, hey, fuck
So
you.
how do you know about
Sit
it?
back. Well, how else do you think? Would you allow these fucks if you had a choice to bomb from your house so that your house can get blown up? Like, what reasonable
Wait, how
person
do
does
you
this?
know
Unless
about
they're
it? You're
all
just
fucking
making up
crazy.
shit.
Anybody, right? If these people were actually giving permission for Hamas to enter their buildings or houses to fucking bomb Israel, right? If they were actually giving permission, then they deserve their house to be bombed. I'm sorry.
What are you
If they're
talking in
not,
hypotheticals?
right?
Why are you talking in
I
hypotheticals?
That's not
said
hypothetical,
Why
my
don't
guy.
you refer to
there
the
is no
fucking facts, Free
situation,
G?
right, where somebody comes into my house to fire a fucking rocket and I don't know about it. Like, hello,
Where is
you
this
can't.
statistically?
3G, what if they force you? What if Hamas comes to your house and
That's what
installs
I
rockets?
said, right? They're forcing people to do this. So at the point of a gun, this is expressive violence. And if people
But
say
even
no, they'll
still,
fucking kill them. Like
but
this
despite
is a
that,
Free
terror group.
G,
3G,
Free G,
but 3G, despite that,
where is
the
this
IDF will
backed
still
up by
take
data?
precautionary
3
measures
G, do
to
you have a
mitigate the
single
impact on
piece of
civilians.
data to back
Despite
up what
that.
you said? Because I think you're a fucking liar currently.
Oh my god. AK,
The
this
only
is why no
person
one
in this
fucking
chat
likes you.
talking
You don't
sense is
contribute
fucking
to a
3G.
conversation.
Jesus Christ.
He has provided no
AK never
source,
contributes to
no
the
piece of data,
conversation.
not a
What's it?
AK's a
What's it
fucking
Israel
Despite,
retard,
do?
100%.
Okay, I'm actually getting
Okay,
despite
wait.
annoyed.
Israel
Please
did
don't
is
civilians,
refer to me
genius.
again. I actually don't want to talk.
Can you guys
despite
stop or shut up?
civilians,
Shut up. Shut up. Shut
Yeah,
up.
did you
Stop
guys
with
hear
the
what
fucking
Israel
over
did? It was
talking.
genius. They lined up tanks and were like faking a
yes,
ground
we know,
assault. So all the Hamas would go underground into the tunnels
and
right
target
next to
them.
Gaza, and then they airstriked it and killed like it was like
Yeah.
300 of them.
So
Absolutely.
again, right? Like the argument of high CivCas numbers doesn't indicate a log violation. Argued had no response to that. The whole point about the AP building, right? I've issued a response to that, and no counter argument has been provided, right?
What
I mean, at this point in time, we can only reasonably conclude that Aaron, Boots, and AK have just become so anti-Semitic, or some part because of their religion, at least with Boots, because he's a Muslim, that he's unable to see reason, right? That's interesting. That's
yeah, you haven't actually.
People like echo chambers. I mean,
just.
I mean, I've already
against the
cited the
rules-
evidence, which you failed to respond
Okay,
to.
link.
Because you
link
can't accuse
dumping.
people of
Wait.
anti-Semitism
Link
on this server.
dumping. Okay, Hayden. Link.
Why are we talking about anti-Semitism and
Right.
Islamophobia? That makes no sense.
Well, first of all, link
Because these
dumping is
people
not an
are
argument. You
anti-Semitic.
actually haven't. No, I'm not at all. I'm anti-Zionist. Sure, that's not anti-Semitism though.
I'm anti-Zionist.
No, you are
yeah. I don't know about.
Oh, okay. Can you please demonstrate this instead of just like
I mean,
calling me
you're
anti-Semitic?
repeating disinformation against
You
Israel
have yet
for
to
no other
demonstrate this to
reason
be
than it's due.
disinformation. Can you provide the
I
source
have.
where Israel has actually
Already
provided
have.
evidence for
I've
Hamas
already
being
cited
stationed?
I can make a
evidence.
good
No,
argument
you
that
have not.
Zionism
No,
is
the
anti-Semitic.
evidence is
By the way,
literally
just avoid
Netanyahu
saying
saying
casualties
it.
is
That's
okay.
like all the
So
evidence
all
they
you
have.
have
That's
provided
enough.
so
That's all you
far is
need.
the IDF saying so, and then you
That's all you
simultaneously
need.
say,
Cited
Because
and then
several
wait, let me finish.
independent
Let me
investigations
finish.
by the
Let
military
me
advocate
finish.
general
Okay, I'm
and
just going to turn
several
you down.
academic
No, Mike
Because
papers.
like
can
I
overtalk
you've been
anybody he
talking for
wants.
5
There's no
minutes, and
mod
I didn't give
whatsoever.
me 3 seconds to respond.
Military
Okay.
advocate
So
general.
no, you have not actually demonstrated anything. All
Yes, I
you've
have.
done is engage in contradictory argumentation. You said you did not
Nothing's
trust
contradicted.
Blinken's word, right? And he needs to provide
I've already
evidence that he
addressed
was
this.
privy to the intelligence that was relevant
You
to
said
the
he
actual
was.
operation. And simultaneously, you're saying we don't need evidence from Israel because we can trust them for their word, of course, right?
Nope.
They were in charge
So
of the
I've
operation.
I've
Therefore, there's
already
no need
argued
for an
this.
independent investigation.
I've already
So
argued this
you've
with
already
this
shown
slimy
yourself to be
human.
intellectually dishonest.
I've already
right?
argued this with this slimy
You've just
human.
posted links
He
that are not
claimed
actually pertinent
that
to the
Secretary of
discussion at
State
hand. You went
Blinken
on
said
about
that he hasn't
international law
seen any evidence
back
about
with
the AP
Nazi war
building being a
tribunals,
lawful
which is
target.
not relevant to
That
this.
was the
We're
fake
talking
news
about
claim.
occupation of land.
Reading the
Okay,
article, it
are
says
you
the following.
okay?
The
Hello?
Israeli military spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel
Okay, did he just
Jonathan
mute me?
Conquest,
And
said
yeah,
that
I
Israel
literally
was
got the same
He literally
video from
talked through
another
the
for
entire
the
thing that you
US,
said.
but
He
did not
just
confirm
kept
when it would be
talking over
available.
you, Aaron. I don't
That's
think he's
curious.
listening.
Yeah, well, he's
Then
not
also he
accustomed to
goes
that.
on to state some
I
other things
reduced the
that
volume to
Blinken
him as well.
hasn't seen that information.
Yeah, like
because
why
the
is
Israelis
this
haven't
fun for
provided
you?
it yet.
Like
So that's
honestly.
counter to